This is Mark Johnson, President and CEO of Loyalty 360, the Loyalty Marketers Association. I want to thank you for taking the time to attend today's webinar, one in a series presented by Loyalty 360. Today's webinar is entitled, So You Have a Lot of Customer Data, Now What? It will be presented by Dave Resnick, the Vice President of Client Solutions at VeraCentra. Dave has worked at VeraCentra since 1996. He is Vice President of Strategic Partners and a Senior Consultant. Leveraging his extensive finance, banking, and high-level project management expertise, Dave is responsible for driving VeraCentra's sales organization, which includes building relationships and revenue opportunities via direct and indirect sales channels, alliances, and partnerships like those with Loyalty 360. With more than 15 years' experience in business development, Dave's consultative approach underscores his commitment to providing VeraCentra's prospects and clients with marketing automation solutions that yield maximum value. As always, a recording of this webinar will be archived for Loyalty 360 members to access, and a copy of the presentation will be distributed to all attendees tomorrow. Dave will be accepting and answering questions throughout his presentation. You can use the Q&A function of your control panel to get Dave questions, and I will pose them to Dave at the end of the presentation. I will now turn it over to Dave.
Thank you very much, Mark, and welcome to the audience today. Appreciate your time. We have about 55 minutes to talk about this topic of what to do next once you have all your customer data in place. Thought I'd put forth a quick agenda to make sure we're all on the same page. The agenda is, let me see, get this, there we go. We're going to do four things today. The first, what is customer intelligence and what does it look like? Second, what type of analysis you can do with organized data. Very specific examples of how data drives ROI analysis and examples of the analysis. So this is a nuts and bolts, roll up your sleeves type session where you'll walk away with some very specific visuals on what smart companies across the country are doing to understand their data, work with their data, and most importantly, take action on their data. As Mark mentioned, during the conversation, if you have any questions, I'll try to incorporate answers as we go along, and then Mark at the end will ask me to answer any unasked questions. So let's get started. I thought we'd start off by helping you understand who VeraCentra is and why we have so much knowledge in this space. VeraCentra is a company that is first and foremost helping our clients identify and invest in and then communicate with its most valuable customers. Central to all this is helping our customers understand where their data is and how to monetize their data. We've been around for 20-plus years. We're headquartered in Napa, California, for you wine drinkers out here. It's going to be 80 degrees and sunny. Key capabilities, we have VeraCentra Intelligence Platform, which is a customer analysis and intelligence tool. We develop and execute customer engagement programs for our customers. We provide results and recommendations for continuous improvement in the loyalty arena as well. Our experience is both broad and deep, both with large companies and brands that you would have recognized like Discover and Costco and Intuit, and smaller brands like Coit and Edwards and BabyCenter, which you may not have heard of. We have both B2B and B2C clients, multi-billion down to a few hundred million in terms of size. Importantly, we work with customers that are in a varying stage of where they are in their customer engagement strategy. Some are just trying to get started. Others have extensive experience in that space and are looking to fine-tune what they're currently doing. Our methodology is frankly quite simple. We judge ourselves by asking our clients to measure us on if they were able to contribute incrementally to the profitability of their organization while using technology that drives increased customer value. As you can see on this chart right here, our methodology is relatively straightforward. We look at what you're doing today. We understand if it's achieving customer intelligence. We design and enhance new programs, design new programs or enhance current programs. We help you execute those programs, and then at every step we measure the success. In today's presentation, as part of the case studies, I'm actually going to go to our demo site and use some of the data that we have there to demonstrate what companies are doing in terms of customer intelligence and utilizing their data. So what is customer intelligence? Forrester Research, most of you are familiar with Forrester Research, I'm sure. Customer intelligence, simply put, is the management and analysis of customer data from all sources used to drive marketing and business strategies. The smartest companies are leveraging their data to improve in customer experience and to use deep customer knowledge to boost business performance. For me, I'm a simple guy. I think customer intelligence equals competitive advantage. Those companies out in the market that have utilized their data in such a fashion that they've turned their data into that intelligence about their customers, and not just groups, but individuals like me, they've captured my imagination and they've created a competitive advantage. With me, I'm going to spend a larger share of my spend with them in their space. That's competitive advantage. One of my favorite slides, this was put together by Aberdeen, and it really sets the stage of the bulk of the communication that I'm going to deliver today. And it talks about what companies are doing across the board in terms of utilizing their data. This particular study was done across about 600 companies, and they categorized it. If you've read Aberdeen studies before, they talk about things as laggards, industry average, and best in class. And this particular study was asking about these customers and these businesses where they were in their life cycle about using customer data to drive communication. And the results are incredibly compelling. If you're just in the middle of the pack, you will have seen a 2% decline in your net client value year over year. So if you're doing what everybody else is doing in terms of centralizing your data, getting that 360-degree view of your data, you're going to experience a 2% decline in your net client value year over year. So if you do nothing over the course of time, your company will whittle away to nothing. Your retention rates are 78%, your satisfaction rates are 71%, as you can see here. If you're a laggard, you're declining at 9% net client value year over year. That means a customer in 2010 that delivered $1,000 of revenue will only deliver $910 of revenue this year, and that goes on year after year. It's a bad proposition. Here's the most important component right here. Those companies out there that are utilizing their data, taking action on their data, understanding the customer's requirements, their needs, their desires, based on the information the data provides, they're seeing a 6% increase in net client value year over year. Their retention rates are off the charts. Their satisfaction rates are extremely high. And their amount of time spent, which is money, researching and doing analysis is at the bottom of the chart, basically at 6% of subordinates' time. So all of these are very important reasons why it's important to have a specific strategy when it comes to organizing your data. So why tackle this? Your IT group might be saying to you, we don't have enough time, we can do whatever you'd like to do. The reality is that many marketers are priority 11, and there's only 10 priorities in IT. So you're not getting what you need in a timely manner. So why tackle data aggregation? Number one, increase revenues from your customer base. Need to improve your customer experience. If you're communicating with me via email and I want something in my mailbox, you ought to know that. If I want a text versus an email, you ought to know that too. Why tackle? You have insufficient share of wallet. You may think you're doing well in space, but once you aggregate your data and put some measurements behind it, you may not find the answers that you're looking for. You may lack product differentiation. You want to maximize loyalty and retention, increase ROI from customer programs, and increase sales effectiveness. I would imagine everybody out there today listening to this conversation has one or more objectives in this space staring at them right now for 2011. Most importantly, a lot of marketers have a gut feel that they're leaving money on the table. And the only way to understand what that might look like is to look at your data from a scientific perspective, meaning aggregate it, combine it with all the relevant data to understand what's actually happening. So I'm going to share a quick success story with you. This is a company called Quake, been in business a number of years, a couple $100 million, $1.5 million customers, and doing okay. Their challenge was that they had no customer intelligence. So on that Aberdeen chart that I shared with you just a moment ago, they were in the bottom third of that category called laggards, and they would tell you that today. So their data was stuck in operational applications. Marketing didn't have access to it. They had no insight or limited insight to customer retention and loyalty. And most importantly, when they tried to get money to make changes, it wasn't forthcoming from the financial group. So what was the solution that we helped them sell to their organization, implement, and then measure? So the first thing that happened is we helped them understand their customers' repeat patterns. By that, what I mean is, you know, if a customer generally comes in every 6 months and they haven't been in for 7 or 8 months, that's a problem. That customer is defecting, and one wants to stop that at month 5, not at month 7. We help them set customer objectives with revenue, profit, and ROI by segment. We designed triggered engagement programs based on the life cycle, how long they've been, what product mixes they had with them, etc. We designed and tested a variety of campaigns, offers, messages to create an ROI, and created an ROI goal for each and every campaign we set out the door. And most importantly, we provided complete transparency into results with dashboards. And so every step of the way, whether something performed at a very high level or didn't perform at expectation, the leadership team of the organization knew. And interestingly, even when something didn't go according to plan, if it was identified quickly and those dollars were stopped and redirected to a successful plan, the marketing team got kudos. The results: 34% increase in repeat customer purchases, incremental revenue lift of 25%, and a 250% ROI, all in. That's inclusive of creative, messaging, communications, you name it. Suffice it to say that Coit is very excited and thrilled about what's happening with their communications program and how they've used their data to take action with their customers to build loyalty. So, I told you we were going to give a lot of specific examples today on why organizing your data, taking action on your data is so important. How do you do it? What does it look like? And I'm going to give you 4 case studies on what it looks like. I hope I've got you on the hook right now and you're thinking to yourself, you know what, I need to make sure the initiative that I've been trying to get off the ground relating to customer aggregation, aggregating customer data and understanding customers at a very granular level gets off the ground. I hope I've got you on the hook. If I don't, I've got one more item to share with you that hopefully will put you over the hurdle. You know, the typical marketer here knows they're leaving money on the table. They don't know how much. This particular chart here shows what happens when you do nothing versus do something. And specifically, if you look at this, many of the companies that are experiencing at expectation, that middle box in the Aberdeen slide I just shared with you, are achieving this much customer value across their entire spectrum of their client base, whether you're in acquisitions, retention, or trying to lengthen the tail through attrition strategies. Those companies that are actively engaged in monetizing their data, meaning taking action with their data, with programs to engage their customers and measuring results, achieve a significantly higher customer value. Some folks think it's as high as 70%. Some folks think it's as high as 20%, depending on whose Kool-Aid that you are drinking, Aberdeen or Forrester, etc. So the reality is everybody's in agreement that creating value through using your data to communicate with your best customers or your attriting customers or your up-and-coming customers, whichever segment is important to your business, is critical to the financial success of your organization. So creating value, what does that mean? How do I meet my goals? How do I increase customer retention? How do I achieve greater customer intimacy and loyalty? Doing these actions, making these things happen is what creates value to your organization. If you're publicly traded, that's EPS, earnings per share. If you're privately held, it's meeting your objectives and achieving your bonus probably. But at the end of the day, you need to meet your objectives, and you do that by making sure that your customers and prospects are spending more versus less with you. So here's the conundrum. I've met with literally hundreds of marketers over the course of years, and across the board, whether it was 15 years ago, 10 years ago, or recently, in good times or bad times, the conundrum, the data conundrum remains the same. There's so much of it, it's overwhelming. I don't know how to put it all together. The second thing is I don't control the data sources. You have data internal to your organization, like your CRM system, and external. External might be using an Omniture or a outsourced email tool like ExactTarget or Vertical Response. You can get all this data and it's all sent to you, but you don't have the right tools to take advantage of your data. You got spreadsheets everywhere. You're spending all your time trying to understand and put your data together. And lastly, it's not organized, and because you don't have visibility into it, you're not addressing the data dirtiness or irregularities that are presented throughout your organization. So from my perspective, the key is, if you control your data, you in marketing, and oftentimes that's a partnership between marketing and IT, marketing success increases. I like to think of data as inventory. And you can do a lot with inventory to make it more and more valuable. So what do you need to do? I think that oftentimes when I work with my customers out there, it's as simple as putting together a very specific stepped plan. So I'm going to walk through that briefly right now and show you what that looks like, and then to the specific example I've spoken about previously. When I look at data, I like to think about these in terms of what I want to analyze. And we've got customers that analyze things in 10 different buckets, some in just one bucket. But oftentimes, customers customers are asking us, what's the best approach? And I personally think that looking at it from a campaign, transaction, and customer perspective is an approach that's a 20-80 rule. Most companies, if they look at all their data sources and drop them into, is this going to help me analyze my campaigns? Is this going to help me analyze my transactions? Or lastly, customers, they're going to have identified the data sources and aligned them correctly with what they're trying to do. So I think that in order to get that to happen, you have to ask yourself, what questions are we looking to answer? Are we looking to deal with a question about our attrites? Are we looking to deal with questions regarding share of wallet? Are we looking to deal with questions regarding engagement? What is it? What data do I need to answer those questions? Do we have the data in-house, or do we need to supplement? Once we look at that, We want to see what that data is providing us in terms of success. Repeat purchases, what my attrit rate is, et cetera, to create baseline metrics. Once we have that in place, the next step is to say, okay, now that I have my baseline data in place, I'm going to start to look at my data through a much different lens, turn my data into information, execute programs and strategies to make an impact on my area of, that I'm looking at, whether that's a trite or cross-sell, et cetera. And with that, I'm going to measure my performance, which is where the ROI analysis comes from. The key to this, clearly, is to know what you're doing today, what my retention rate is today. How much more do repeat customers spend? Are my marketing programs really working? These are the questions that you must answer if you'd like to garner the financial resources of your organization. And these are the typical questions that we see that our clients are trying to ask, whether it's B2C or B2B. Data is found in a variety of spots, from your customer databases, internal and external. Could be a CRM system external like Salesforce, or a homegrown CRM system. Your ERP systems, operational systems. There's a variety of execution tools out there, whether it's an email tool, a texting tool, a Pearl builder, or a microsite builder, or outsourced direct mail. It's key that in each one of these relationships, you dictate how you'd like to receive your data at a very granular level, so you can understand what's actually engaging to your customers and prospects. Clearly, when you send out programs, you need to control and have access to the data on the response side, whether that's the web, the call center, or through a retail store. And lastly, many of our customers are looking to, and many companies out there are looking to implement loyalty programs and loyalty systems. And I must caution you in this area, loyalty systems are fantastic. Loyalty programs are fantastic, but you want to know what you're trying to accomplish with them. Specifically, are you just looking for a venue to capture customer data, or are you looking for a venue to really enhance someone's experience with your company? That's a subject for a different webinar. So now that you're organized, you've gone through this process, you know what you want to tackle, you know what your initiatives are, and I'm going to now share with you what some of those initiatives might be. It could be a share of wallet lifetime value analysis, a life cycle or stage triggers, meaning, hey, depending on how a customer is currently engaged with me, how do I move them up my food chain into a more valuable bucket? I'm going to share an RFM analysis with you, and I'm going to share an analysis about marketing programs and what's really working. And throughout this, I'm going to go back and forth between a PowerPoint site and an actual data site. I'm going to be sharing actual customer data. It's all been renamed to protect the innocent, but these are real live examples out there that we've experienced over the last couple of years. So the first thing I want to talk about is share of wallet and a lifetime value analysis. And I'm going to try to take the mysticism out of this. And you're welcome to, when you get this PowerPoint, to share and steal this methodology. It's a simple process that I've come up with and used throughout time. I'm going to do this in two different stages. First, I'm going to go to my demo site, and let me log in here and give you a sense of what lifetime value looks like. And I'll go to a dashboard here, and why it's important to you. And I'm going to do this from the perspective of understanding granular data. You can see in this top right-hand chart that we were engaged to do a lifetime value gap analysis. And this particular customer was a member of a data cooperative, so we were able to get some really great data about their customers and where they were spending elsewhere. What we brought to this equation was their ability to see that all their customers are not equal. They had 7 segments, and these are their segments. Again, we've renamed them to protect the innocent. and they were communicating with each of these segments in the exact same way. After we went through this gap analysis, we helped them understand that some of their customers, for instance, those customers at the top end of this chart up here, were really pretty loyal and spending 50+% of their spend with them. These customers on the left side of the chart, they were not delivering 50% of their revenue. In fact, in many cases, they were delivering less than a third of their revenue into this particular product mix. Now, the interesting thing here was that prior to digging into and organizing their data, the company's perspective is across the board, they had about 70% share of market in this particular space versus these retail competitors that we were going to compare their share of wallet to. Indeed, that wasn't the case, so it was an eye-opener. What did they do now? So the big thing is, how did they take action with this information from the data? Well, first of all, they treated these people at the high end here as loyalists, and instead of messaging them frequently and offering them discounts, etc., they engaged them and they spent on a less frequent basis. They spent less dollars because they know that their success with this group is going to be dictated based on how they engage them in the retail channel, online or offline. The customers at the left side of this chart, a whole different ballgame. These customers need to be engaged. So in essence, they took the money from up here and moved it over here to make an impact to gain additional share of wallet. They increased the share of wallet on the left 3 segments by about 20% over 12 months. They were pretty thrilled with that particular success. Back to the PowerPoint here. So what are the key things that I'd like you to take away from this? I think it's important to know, once you have your data together and you're ready to take action on it, which segments do you want to invest in and why? Which segments require higher and lower investments, and what the upside is. If the upside is 100 units of money and you've got to invest 60 units of money to get it, it may not be a great investment. It's really important to understand what the value of the upside is. And that's done, and once you put it in place, it's imperative that you develop a metric to track progress. So, life cycle stage and triggers. Again, this is a specific customer that we've worked with, and the data is been common-sized a little bit to make it easier to present in this particular forum here. But the company is a service company, primarily B2C, 60/40 B2C, B2B. It's an annuity product. Profitability is built through loyalty, a diverse customer base, and in this particular case, the organization demands a very significant accountability on all investments made. So what was their current state? They had about 1 million customers, and we broke them up into 4 categories for them. And keep in mind, the premise of this webinar is, so now you have your customer data, now what? They had all this data. We organized their data. We helped them understand they really had 4 types of customers. We call them loyalists, up-and-comers, shoppers, and defectors. And we helped them understand the value of each of those segments and the type of program that they might want to run in terms of engaging each of those segments. We also helped them to define a key metric or 2. This is obviously a very short list here. This group here purchases 3 times in the last 12 months with an average purchase of $80. And you can see how this changes 1 time for 70, about 0.25 times a year with an average purchase of $70, but they purchased within the previous 24 months. And lastly, these folks haven't purchased in a while, keeping in mind that this is a annuity-based product mix. So their objectives, they created very specific objectives here. In this case, what they wanted to do is they wanted to increase the average purchase frequency to 3.25 times per year and extend the lifetime value in Group 1, all the way to the fourth group where they wanted to activate 10% of the population with a single purchase of $70. They needed to understand how much money was on the table. If they did this to this group of loyalists, what is the incremental revenue they would achieve? In this case, it's $5 million, all the way down to 8.8, 4.3, 1.7 million. And you can see right here, it's clear that the recommendation that was made was that the dollars be spent in this quartile right here, which is their up-and-comers, not the loyalist category. This is not where the money was spent, should be spent, because that's not where the most significant upside is. So the next step here was, what was the program investment requirement to get this done? And you can see right away that the investment was vastly more significant in quartile 2 than it was in quartile 1, 3, and 4. With that investment, what do we want to get in terms of an EBITDA, which is earnings, and what kind of net contribution do we want to get? Both are really important numbers. What's interesting about this engagement is that what the requirements were in terms of the program. In the case number 1, it was a loyalty program. They used their data to build and execute a loyalty program. This program was at both the cash register side, whether it was on the web or in a retail store or in their call center, and it also included a communications program. But what you can see is that they relied on a much lower investment to engage these folks to come in one additional time over the course of a year. They spent vastly more money here, and they got a much more significant upside. This simple philosophy, the ahas that marketers get when they go to their financial arm and say, I want to run a program, and they present how they want to run a program in a short, sweet box like this, the ahas that come back to the marketer are incredible. The financial team tends to be shocked and awed in terms of the presentation and the ability for the marketer to come back and say, hey, you know what, this is what I want to accomplish. Is it always accomplished? No. Sometimes it's overachieved, sometimes it's underachieved, but the most important thing is there's a very specific benchmark that's been put in place to ensure that there's visibility to what's required. So the key takeaways here: you have to have a clear, well-defined strategy with targeted objectives. You've got to actively report on results, both good and bad. This is the most critical component of garnering additional dollars in order to invest in what you're doing in your data aggregation communication programs. It's going to take some resource to get that together, and it's going to take some resource to execute enhanced communication strategies. That may mean you defunct or stop some programs that you've been doing in the past and redirecting dollars, or it may mean you need incremental dollars. But either way, you have to commit and then live up to your commitment about creating visibility into the success of the program. So we're going to post a quick poll here. It's not going to be published, and our marketing team has put together an offer here for all of the attendees of the program before I give you visibility to the last 2 examples of analysis and action based on data. For people here today, you have the ability to get a free RFM analysis from our analytics team. We'll take a variety of data sources that you give us access to, put them into a modeling tool, perform some analysis, and then deliver back to you a very specific, actionable set of tools that you can use. Or you can say you're doing those things right now, and you may want just a checkup to see if there's things that are recommended that you may not have thought about. we all understand your very best customers, identify customers that are dropping in frequency, and then target customers most ready to buy. So this is an offer that's made to all the attendees of the program here, and we're going to have that closed down now. The poll has ended, and I'm going to move on. So the next step is to implement, the next view I'd like to give you is what a RFM strategy stands for. I think most marketers out there know that RFM stands for recency, frequency, and monetary value. Really what an RFM strategy does for you is it creates a scientific segmentation strategy. The premise behind RFM strategies, and oftentimes you'll hear RFM plus, so recency, frequency, measurement, and then you'll put in lifestyle. The plus is lifestyle, and other demographic data, psychographic data, or firmographic data that you want to incorporate into your RFM strategy. But at the end of the day, what it gives you is a ability to use put together a scientific segmentation strategy that you could couple with the strategies that you have in place based on your gut feel and other strategies that you have in your organization. The cool thing about it is, cool being a technical term, is that in order to get this happen, all you need is your transactional data. The plus, you may need some demographic data. And your ability to measure the level of engagement over time is what makes this strategy so predominantly used across B2C and B2B channels, more popular on the B2C side than the B2B side. Here's something that just what a simple view of RFM. I understand there's marketers out there that will say, boy, this looks pretty simple, and indeed, I have really simplified what this looked like, but at the end of the day, what RFM says is, I want to know from a recency perspective where each and every one of my customers lie. Have they been in within the last 25 days or between 181 and 365 days? Depending on where they fall, they're going to get a score. The higher up they score, the more valuable they are to the organization. In this case, we'll do this with recency, frequency, and monetary value. Somebody that purchases very recently, purchases a lot of times per year, and spends a lot with me, they're going to get a monetary value of 5 times 5 times 5, or an RFM score of 125. That's a big number. We'll call that a perfect score. Since you're all A students, I'm sure you all score 125. But you can see that the low side is going to be a 1 or anything in between. The important thing about this strategy is many marketers, they are looking at across their entire customer base, and it's a confusing landscape because there's no methodology about which buckets individual buyers, individual customers belong into. A RFM strategy allows you to effectively put buyers, customers, into a very specific bucket. So now that your RFM is in place, now what are you going to do? So the key to RFM, and what I'm trying to, the mantra of today's presentation is, so you have lots of data, now what? The now what is make decisions and take action. So not analysis paralysis, but make decisions, take actions. So here with RFM in place, now what do you want to do? You want to execute communications, perhaps triggered communications by segment. If you recall the previous slide where I put people in the 4 quartiles, we have engagement strategies or reactivation strategies, but the most important aspect of what you can do with RFM is use it as a tool to measure your engagement strategies and how your customers are behaving over time. So you can take advantage of the positive trends and most importantly be in front of negative trends. So the other component was what RFM does, and many of you out there will have a product mix which has very different buying habits. For instance, you could have a product that someone needs to buy every 30 days, and then another product that someone needs to buy, every 6 months. The recency and frequency of those purchasing behaviors are going to be very different depending on which product the customer is loyal to. Having an RFM strategy in place will allow you to track the propensities and analyze product, region, and brands, and most importantly, then to draw and make recommendations on how to move people from one product within your client mix or your portfolio to multiple products. So the fourth and final view I'd like to give you today is, are my marketing programs really working? Are we reaching our targeted ROIs? Are they performing versus a control group? Do I have the right messages? And I wanted to give you a view of what that looks like in terms of analysis. And once more, I'm going to go to a demo site here and give you a sense of what this might look like. So most marketers know that they are sending communications out. They are getting responses to those communications. They also know that they are running multiple types of programs to their audience and different sorts of campaigns. In this case, I'm going to, for the sake of this presentation, I want to look just at this summer vacation program that I'm doing to this audience right here. And what I hope you garner from this next 5 or 7 minutes is how important it is to get the complete data view of what's happening in order to make informed decisions. Incomplete views will oftentimes lead you to an incorrect decision. And I'm going to show you that right here. So you can see right here that they're running this particular planning tool, and they have 3 different programs here, and they've mailed out about 50,000 communications to these 3 different groups. So the first thing that I'm going to want to know as a marketer is, what's my response rate for this particular segment? And you can see immediately that the response rate for this group SVP2 is vastly higher than it is for the other groups. So if you stopped right here, you're thinking to yourself, that's where I want to pour my money. Well, the next step that somebody might want to take is how much revenue is generated from these programs. And you're seeing, you know what, I told you so, this group right here is also creating the most revenue. They got a terrific response rate, and the revenue achieved from this program is a third higher than the SVP3 program. Again, if you were to stop your analysis right here, that's where you would sit with your decision. Well, the next step that you might want to take is how much gross margin dollars that you've created for each of these programs. And what you're seeing over here, that the story turns dramatically. Although this program here has generated $216,000 in revenue, it's only created $153,000 of gross margin, modestly higher than the gross margin dollars of the second program, SVP3. One last data point here to complete the story, and that is, what is the ROI of these 3 programs? If I include the ROI in here, what we're going to see right now is that the ROI on this first program, the program that most of you were probably convinced was the program that we ought to be running, is only 142%. The second program was almost a 1,700% ROI, and the third program that we hadn't even talked about was generating an 800% ROI. And Andy Rooney would say, so here's the rest of the story. And here's why understanding and getting a complete view is critical to making effective decisions in terms of your marketing program. You've got your data together, you've used your data wisely, you've targeted the audiences that you think would be engaged by your messages, your offers, and most importantly, your products. And the rest of the story is this. SVP2 was a marketing program that was a very expensive, bumpy package that was set out to this audience. So the cost of execution was very high. The second group here, SVP3, was a very low-cost email program that was sent out as a challenger to this bumpy piece. And lastly, SVP4 was a control group. And what you can see from this analysis right here, now that we have a complete view, is that this group SVP3, which was a highly targeted email program based on customers' preferences and behaviors, generated a massively higher ROI. Does it mean that this program, SVP2, was not successful? Absolutely not. Huge return, huge response rate with a ROI that was much lower. But going in, the marketer should have set the stage. We're going to engage this segment in a very expensive way, and we're not only going to measure the behavior based on this piece, but we want to start to track how their behavior changes to all of the buying all of their products over a period of time. That's a very critical component to what this particular program was all about. So what did the company do? The company, if the marketing department in this case had their way, what they wanted to do is they wanted to dip all direct mail and spend all their dollars and communicate more broadly to this group right here, which is SVP3. The president, in his infinite wisdom, said, you know what, if we want to look at our customer bases that myopically, we should do that. But we have a lot of customers that want stuff in their mailbox. They want to be engaged that way. And we ought to communicate with our customers in the channel that they have as a preference. Interesting about what this sort of analysis does is you could do this analysis and then look at it based on the value segments that we might have looked at earlier from an RFM perspective, the medium, direct mail, email. We're seeing a lot more, especially on the customer engagement side, texting right now or SMS. Not seeing so much of that in terms of acquisition, but very extensively now in terms of customer engagement. You can look at it via offer, via creative, and you can start to get that complete view when you have all the data about your customer's behavior. I'm going to head back to my PowerPoint presentation now. And when we started this presentation here about 45 minutes ago, what we wanted to do is to give you a view of what customer intelligence is and what it looks like. And I've given you several views of that. I've defined it for you and given you several views of what this would look like. Specifically, an RFM analysis, a campaign response rate profitability analysis, also did a segmentation analysis on how the data drives ROI. What I'm hoping that each of you walks away with right now is that understanding that if you have your data organized right now, if you have access to that data on a real-time basis, I call that having a relationship with your data, you have the ability with very limited resources to be able to do the analysis that I've just shared with you today. And importantly, the most important aspect of it, you would have the ability to take action on the analysis that I've shown you today. So with that, I'd like there's a couple questions that have come up in terms of what the source is for creating the value chart. I'll get that out to you in terms of with the PowerPoint presentation, so you know the source of that particular chart. Amanda also wants me to remind you all that you'll get a copy of the presentation distributed to you by the end of day tomorrow, and importantly that if you would like some greater access to see the analysis side again, feel free to give me a call, and I would be happy to share with you the demo site, and so you can take a look at what kind of analysis that is available to you. With that, Mark, is there any questions that have come up that I didn't answer during the presentation?
Yes, we actually have a couple questions, and you're doing such a great job, I thought you can continue. You're taking my job. I felt like I was feeling left out over here.
Okay.
So you already addressed the issue about the creating value chart. Another question we have is, does your system integrate with other off-the-shelf systems or internal systems? And if so, what does that process look like?
That's a phenomenal question. In terms of our technology, we're data source agnostic. We integrate with a variety of email tools like Cheetah, Vertical Response, Exact Target. We integrate with CRM systems like Salesforce, and we integrate with web tools like Omniture and Google. Ourselves, we are, as I mentioned, data source agnostic, and what we do with our customers is help them identify which sources of data we need to import on a daily or real-time basis so they can get the views they're looking for. In terms of the process, it tends to be pretty short and sweet and involves setting up an ETL process where that data comes to us in an encrypted fashion on a daily basis.
Okay. Next question do we have, do you generally recommend SaaS, that is system as a software type, or on-premise implementations?
I don't think that there's any right answer to that question. We're an on-demand system, and that may not be right for everybody. In fact, I know it's not right for everybody. There's some fantastic installed systems out there. I think the most important thing to understand is what are the requirements of the organization in terms of timing, in terms of money, and in terms of resources. In terms of timing, generally speaking, if you need something up and running very quickly, people trend towards on-demand or SaaS versus installed. If money isn't an object and you're looking to create a platform well beyond what marketing might need, maybe you go installed. And lastly, it depends if you can get the technical resources to pay attention to your marketing needs. Interestingly, at one of our financial services clients, they have an installed solution that's extraordinarily robust, but the marketing department wasn't getting what they needed on a real-time basis. If they needed something, they sketched out an email, and 2-3 weeks later they'd have what they needed. So although they had the tools in-house, this particular customer wanted to have real-time access to certain data sets. And whether it's our tool or other tools, you will have heard the same set of requirements that are out there and the same set of issues that marketers face. The reality is that marketers don't want to be priority 11, they want to be priority 1, and more times than not with an outsourced vendor, they're priority 1.
Okay, thank you for that comprehensive answer. The next question, how is data analyzed in real time or batch different? And also, do you have neural network capabilities in your system? So I guess that's a two-part question. How is data analyzed? Is real time or batch more effective? And the second part, of follow-up to that, is do you have neural network capabilities in your system?
So question number one, real time or batch, I think it depends on the circumstances and what you're trying to do. If the solution that you're looking for is to create engagement on a real-time basis when they're on your website, you need to have real-time tools that are allowing that engagement to happen. Oftentimes, most of what marketers do isn't mission critical in terms of real-time, and real-time tends to be a lot more expensive than batched, whether that's twice a day or once a day. Even the some of the largest loyalty programs and customer engagement programs out there are batch-based. So there's a balance in the monetary investment. Mark, I forget the second part of that question.
The second part of the question is, does your system have neural network, i.e. learning capabilities?
So is it smart? The answer is yes. So that's such a broad question. Is it artificially intelligent? The answer is no. What it does do is it has data mining, proactive data mining capabilities built into it that allow those very unique diamonds to be found on an automated basis and then communicated to. But there is neural networking systems out there that are really built around continual improvement in terms of the technology and the analytics that they provide, and we're not in that space.
The next question we have is around the kind of proliferation of social media data, and how do you discern between the mavens, connectors, i.e. those that have a connection or interaction to your brand versus those who don't. How do you take that social media data, which is proliferating, they expect it to double over the next 2 years in a recent research by Forrester, and making actionable with behavioral data?
Yeah, another really great question. First of all, there's a lot of art still in that space when you're looking at blogs and trying to decide whether what someone's saying is a positive comment about your brand, a negative comment about your brand, or just a comment about your brand across what could be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of communications. What you use is sentiment analysis tools to understand what's actually being said, an inexact science at this time. The bigger picture, though, is that we think it's absolutely critical to incorporate social data into your analysis. I spoke recently in New York with one of our clients from Johnson & Johnson, where we had built a social media site for them, where we were taking all their aggregated blogging and things that were said about their brand and normalizing that for them so they could understand what was being said. And they feel like it's critical to their business success to understand what's out there in the blogosphere, what's out there on the internet, good or bad. They need to understand that. And I think that for those of you who go to conferences today, certainly it's a hot topic right now, or one of the hot topics. Not that the social media is important, but and not that how do we control it, because you can't control it, but how do we take advantage of what is being said out there, how do we get it behind our walls and analyze it so we can do better in serving our audiences. That's where people are focused today. Okay.
Thank you very much, Dave, for the wonderful presentation. As we mentioned before, this presentation will be archived on Loyalty 360. If you have any questions, feel free to either email Dave directly. You see his contact information there on the screen, or give him a call. He would love to hear from you. Or contact us at Loyalty 360, and we will make sure to get him the questions as well. We will be sending out the presentation tomorrow to all those attend, and we look forward to having you on the next webinar. Also, these are the type of presentations that you will be seeing at the 2011 Engagement Expo, and we'd love to have you guys there as well. So again, thank you for taking your time to learn more about customer data.
Thank you, Mark, and just a quick perk for you, we've been to several of your several of your conferences, and we find them to be outstanding. So thanks for allowing us to make this presentation to your audience, and we look forward to seeing you again at the next conference.
All right, great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.